because there's an absolute core problem in the country. And the core problem to me is we have a political structure that defines community geographically, and we no longer define ourselves geographically as a community. And that has to be addressed. There's no prospect that, I mean, for a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, you know, pretty typically, you know, people stayed in certain geographies, they stayed in certain communities. You know, you were kind of born somewhere, you worked there, you raised a family there, or you didn't, but you know, and if you moved, you maybe moved one riding over, but that was like the dark side of the moon, right? That is not our collective experience, right? And as the economy gets less structured, we are all going to have to be kind of economic nomads, or we are already, right? Like the day of, we'd all go sign on to General Motors in Oshawa, you know, be there 30 years, get a gold watch, live in Oshawa. That's not happening. We're all moving all the time. And so we need another way to express a community. And so if you had proportional representation, for instance, you would not have a circumstance where you know, the Greens, for instance, you know, are kind of reduced to a single geography, right? If there was proportional representation, there would be a Green representation in the House, probably, just in terms of popular vote. There would be more incentive for people to vote, because at present, you know, and I say this with some admiration, I live in Trinity Spadina, our MP is Olivia Chow. She's an outstanding member of Parliament, right? If you're not a New Democrat, you know, maybe you, and it's late, you know, you got an errand or two to run, maybe you don't go out to vote because you kind of think she's going to win, and right? But if there was something else, that's, maybe you would. No, I'm not suggesting this is going to have like some huge leap, but a percent or two would matter, you know? Young people feeling that they could participate and in a way that they kind of allowed that to be expressed, that would matter. And I believe the political class understands that has to happen. The problem is you do have a framework around a constitution. I know from, I've got the scar tissue to show what happens when you open the constitutional file. You know, you do so at your peril. And the problem will be everybody will want their issue resolved in the first round, right? That we won't be patient enough to an incrementalist thing. So where I'd net out, in communication terms, is I'd pick one idea, I'd pick one thing. It would probably be around proportional representation, and I would try to drive that one change. Because the parties then, it's about, you know, where's the common interest, right? And a political party can get its head around that could be in their interest, right? Because the first past the post system, you know, back in the day, Mr. Trudeau used to win 75 out of, or 74 out of 75 in Quebec, right? The Tories would get 20-some% of the vote, no seats, or one. You know, Rocky LaSalle, you were Grafty, right? 2. That was it, right? Similarly, Liberals in Alberta, nothing. Okay? In the last federal election, the New Democratic Party got shut out in terms of seats in the cradle of the movement in Saskatchewan, right? That doesn't reflect the strength of the party in Saskatchewan. So because they probably can be convinced that there's an interest for them in it, then then once you affect that change, then it's got broader implications, and that's where I'd go. And I would just hammer at it, and I'd hammer at it. And the other thing I'd do, frankly, I wouldn't, you see, if I was looking at Robocon, I wouldn't be asking for a public inquiry. I'd be in another place. I'd be asking for a Royal Commission on Electoral Reform. I would argue that there hasn't been one since Pierre Lortie in 1993. I would argue that the technology has completely changed the landscape. I wouldn't be pointing fingers. I'd just say, you know what, we're due.